So, my name is Brad Yoakum, and I'm the owner of QB Cure. And we are joined with Seth Soon, who is with me. And just wanted to thank you guys very much for joining us. During this slide presentation, you guys will get copies of it as well with the links. If you guys have any questions at the end, just kind of hold off till the end, and that way we can kind of get through the slides okay, and then we'll allow enough time at the end to answer any questions. Just curious, how many people have used SCORE in the past or they're currently using them? If you want to put it in the chat, Seth will monitor that. I'm just curious. I actually use them myself, and I can't agree more with this with that opening presentation because they've been really, really helpful for me. And I even have an advisor that helps me from time to time on different issues. So if you guys, I see a lot of thumb up, so that's all good. If you guys, for the people that haven't used them, I highly recommend them. They're free, and these are all business individuals that are just giving back free for their time, and it's invaluable. I think every business should have SCORE behind them personally. So we're going to talk today about 12 tips and tricks using QuickBooks Online. Give you a little background. I had started this business. Actually, Seth, I don't know if you know this. This month is 10 years. 10 years ago, I started this. So time flies. And even with all the advancements, I mean, back then we were doing more desktop stuff and online was still there, but not as prevalent or as popular as it is now. And how many people are using QuickBooks Online right now? And if you're not, you could say, well, I'm thinking about it. Or if you're on the desktop version, just say desktop. Just kind of curious. And there's been a lot of discussion between desktop and online. And personally, I like the desktop version. I like the look and the feel of it. And they just couldn't replicate or duplicate that look and feel onto the online. So when people are so used to the desktop version and they go over to the online, it's so different. But fortunately, we haven't had any people that say, "Oh, I can't handle this. I want to go back to the desktop." They get over the learning curve, and it's a small learning curve for people that haven't used it. You guys, within a couple days, you'll be up and running in no time if you use it and kind of embrace it. So these 12 tips and tricks were really from my staff, Seth and Rebecca, David, and Simone. They had kind of put together a list of things that they thought might be helpful. Some of the stuff you're going to use, or some of the stuff you're already going to know, and other things maybe you'll say, "Oh, I didn't realize that," and that's really good information, and hopefully you'll get some value behind it. So let me share my slide. We'll kind of go back and forth. All right, you can see the 12 tips and tricks, Seth. Always good, always good. So a little background. QB Cure, we do QuickBooks Online for businesses, and we do the monthly reconciliation review, support owners that use QuickBooks Online. And while we don't do taxes, we work with tax people to help any information, questions, or transactions needed. We can supply that and kind of act as that intermediary between the business owner and the CPA or tax advisor. And we're in Orange County. Where's everybody from? I'm just curious what city you guys are from. So this is a good turnout. So it sounds like they did a statewide campaign on this, so that's good. So one of the things that's not even listed on the 12 tips and tricks that I always mention, and especially with AI now, everybody's on ChatGPT or Claude or one of these Gemini or one of these AI programs. You can get some really good information from that. And I always tell people, when they're trying to find stuff on QuickBooks Online, Google, if you Google it, but even YouTube, because of the video content, you can get some extremely good information from YouTube. There's a lot of QuickBooks content creators that put out YouTube videos, and they can get in much more detailed information about specific subjects than we could. We have just a short time together, So I'm just highlighting stuff. There's several of these topics that we can go on to a deeper dive if we had more time. But there's some great YouTube videos out there when you want to learn some more stuff. And AI is getting better and better. I think Seth and I were talking. It's like a kid right now, but the kid is growing up to be an MBA student in a very, very fast, short time. And while you can't always, like anything else, you gotta always kind of double check your source. You can't take the first thing that you look at and say, "Oh yeah, that's it," and then say that's for sure right. You always want to kind of double check the source. But a lot of these QuickBooks YouTube creators that are out there are putting out very, very solid information. Sometimes because QuickBooks Online is making a lot of changes in a very short period of time. In fact, Seth and I were saying like the last probably 6 months, they've made more changes in 6 months than they have in probably, a couple of years. And sometimes it's happening so fast that it might be on our client's QBO file, but it won't be on ours. So they're seeing sometimes different screens than we are. It just depends on the timing of everything. So QuickBooks Online is making some very fast changes. And so they do listen to customer feedback. That's another tip. If you don't like something, put it in the question in the feedback section in QuickBooks Online. They do listen to that. And if they get enough complaints or issues, they will make changes on it. May not happen as quickly, of course, as you'd like, but they do listen to that feedback. And we've noticed a number of changes that they make, or they take things into consideration before maybe the next release. And unlike a desktop where you have to, download the release and update, obviously online is just happening instantaneously. There is no extra button. It's just moving and updating that at all times throughout the month. You don't know when that's happening. There's no time. It's just they're just doing it. So, and what they do is what QuickBooks Online does is when something changes, they kind of do it like a wave. They kind of they could start on the West Coast or East Coast or whatever, but they'll select a bunch of company files to update, and then over a very short period of time, they'll like a wave, it will go across the nation and update everybody. But I think they do that is, if there's going to be a big issue, they kind of want to catch it on that initial wave before sweeping it across to all of the QuickBooks users across the nation. So, because sometimes there are some bugs that they didn't realize on that initial release, and they'll fix it real quick. And again, that feedback is where you really want to put that information. Okay, so there's a couple areas, a couple slides that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to be logging into the sample company. And the sample company, if you're using QuickBooks Online, the top right side of your QuickBooks file is that gear icon that you see. And then from there, if you click on the gear icon, you'll see a section on the right that says sample company. And the sample company, think of it like a sandbox. You can play around with it and try different stuff out. They've put information in this sample company, just basic information, so it looks like it's an active company, and you can kind of create invoices. You can do all the stuff in your regular QuickBooks file, but if you don't want to maybe jeopardize or screw up something in your own file, you can play in the sample company. So it's really nice to kind of test things out. And the one thing you want to keep in mind in this sample company is the minute you get out of it, then they don't keep or retain the information that you put in. They kind of basically erase everything that you did. And then when you go back in, they put the original sample company in there. They load that sample company. So it doesn't change it doesn't keep your information when you're playing around with it. So just keep that in mind. If you get out of it, you lose that part. So if you're going to go in it, I guess play with it for a while and then hop out. So I'm going to hop in. Let's see here. I'm going to go. So let's see if I can get in here. So here, the gear icon, and right here is that sample company I'm talking about. So I'm just going to log in. And everybody that's using QuickBooks Online has this sample company in their QuickBooks file. You can also kind of go online and find it, but that link that is showing there doesn't seem to be working. So if you're using QuickBooks Online, just go into your own sample company. So here's the sample company. It's Craig's Design and Landscape. So they created this basic company and they put in invoices and expenses and stuff in here. So if you go to the reports and you go to standard reports, and we'll just do the profit and loss. So you see these ones that are starred. If there's ones that you routinely go into, just star them. If they're down here, instead of finding them each time, if you star them, they'll put them up top for you under your favorites. Just a quick little easy way to find ones that you're into a lot. So you can see that they put in some basic stuff. You can see there's some income and expenses, and you can kind of play around with this. Now, this first slide, the favorite reports, what I'm referring to is, let's say I want to see this by month. Because I'm a big advocate by seeing it by month. And the cents, I don't want to see the cents. Round to nearest dollar. Okay, so it's a little cleaner. And you can see, this month they don't have information in there in this sample company. But I like to look at stuff by month. It gives me a better horizon, a better trend within your own company. Years ago, the word benchmarking used to be a real hot thing that they were trying, third-party companies were trying to say, hey, you can compare your data to other companies, other like companies. Well, that never worked because trying to compare what you do can be very unique compared to what somebody else does. And trying to find another company that's going to share financial data to this third party and then be able to release it kind of anonymously and try to compare your company to your competitor. Well, as we know, a lot of times what you do is different and unique compared to what your closest competitor does. And trying to find good, reliable information to compare to is really, it's impossible. Now, it does work. The benchmarking does work if you own a franchise, because then you can compare your franchise against other franchises. And usually the franchisor can compare and put out data to kind of benchmark you against the others. But in day-to-day businesses, regular businesses, trying to find another company doing exactly what you do in the manner you do it is real tough. So I guess what I'm getting at is I like looking at my own data. And I can easily AI and say, okay, what is the gross margin for accounting company supposed to be? They're not looking at all the stuff I do, but they're just saying, okay, this is a reasonable, good figure in California or Southern Orange County, Southern California, I'd say, what's a good margin to have for an accounting company? So you can do that too to see if you're in the ballpark of where you need to be. Now, I like this. So I kind of customize this report. And so once I got there, I go to Save As, and then I'll just put QB Care. And you can add it to a group. So if you wanted to say, okay, only these people can see it that have access to QuickBooks, you can break that down. So not everybody will see this. So I'll just save the report. And by saving it, so it's not here, the saving of the report, but if you go to custom reports, there it is, QB Cure. So now I don't have to choose the month, get rid of the cents. It pops up for me right away. So I like using this, and a lot of our clients use this. It's just a quick way to, once you find something, a report that you like, and you've got it to where you want it, save it. And that way it would always be under here, under custom reports. So the standard reports are everything that is already put into QuickBooks. And there's a lot more reporting even in the last year. There's more stuff that I see that's showing up in these reports that are available. So if you guys haven't looked at the reports and what they all have to offer, I would look through these, click on them, see what they do. Everybody's, the more traditional ones, the accounts payable, the accounts receivable, the P&L, the balance sheet, maybe sales by customer summary, those are good. And statement of cash flows, if the information that how you're using QuickBooks could work, because sometimes if you're using an outside payroll company, this could throw it off. If you're not using payroll within QuickBooks, which is fine. A lot of our clients don't. And inventory has been always a kind of a hot subject. It is with me lately. And it's not as good as robust as QuickBooks' desktop, or especially the enterprise. The enterprise version of QuickBooks is a beefed up steroid version of the regular QuickBooks. It's QuickBooks on steroids. And the enterprise is really good for inventory. It's much, much better than the online, quite frankly. And we know a number of clients that use third-party apps for inventory. So, okay. So I just kind of wanted you to see kind of what's important. And I'm going to skip around a little bit the slides, because once I get out of this sample company, then I have to log in each time. So I'm going to kind of cover the ones that are in the QuickBooks Online file. I'm going to just kind of cover right here, and then we'll kind of go through the slide part together. This is one. So if I go to create is basically where everything's at. Most of your things. The estimate. How many people are using estimates in QuickBooks Online? Just give me a show of hands, or a yes, or a W, or a Y, not a W, a Y. Just curious how many people are using estimates. So the estimates, the history with the estimates is it's gotten a lot better. Like I always refer to desktop because that's where everything started. The desktop version of the estimates were really good. And then when QuickBooks Online was coming on board more and more, they didn't have all the bells and whistles of the desktop. And what I mean by the bells and whistles is that you couldn't break down an estimate. You couldn't break it down by percentage, by line item, by custom dollar amount if you want. Well, long time ago now, QuickBooks Online built that in. So you have all the functionality and information that the desktop has now online carries. And it's good. It's where it needs to be. And from what I was saying before, there's some good YouTube videos, more detailed versions of some of this YouTube information on estimates that you can follow along and see. Again, we're just kind of a little short on time to get onto a deep dive. But the estimate is nice because you can tie it into the invoice. And why I like using estimates for our clients is you can use it as a management tool. In one of the standard reports, you will see estimate versus progress invoicing. So let's just kind of take an example. If you have an estimate of 100 grand and every 25% done, you bill out your client 25 grand. And so when you tie the invoice to the estimate, in that management report, it will say, okay, you've billed out 50,000, you have 50,000 left. And if you're thinking, well, I only have one or two clients, okay, that's great. But what if you have 5, 6, 7, 10 or more clients that are all in different schedules and different, invoicing periods? That report will serve as a management tool for you to be as a reminder. Oh yeah, I need to bill out this person, or I haven't billed out 100% yet. I need to check with the foreman, or I need to check with the general contractor on that and see what's going on. So when the estimates are tied to invoices, it's really, really helpful. And we have a lot of clients that are doing that and use that report to kind of track and keep up with where they're at. Right. So, yeah, and this has all been standardized. How many people use QuickBooks Merchant Services, where you're using QuickBooks to process the credit cards and those kind of payments? I actually use them too, for our client billing. Now I've been really, really happy. there's all kinds of merchant companies promising this and promising that, and some of them, quite frankly, might be a little lower. But I always thought, well, I'm going to sign up for this rate today, and who's to say in 1 month they won't increase the rate? So in QuickBooks, anytime I've had any issues, which has been very rare, the merchant services have been very helpful. And I love it because it's all self-contained in QuickBooks, which I'm a big believer in. I don't need to have 10 different apps to do all kinds of different stuff. If I can have QuickBooks, if I can get QuickBooks to be maximized to my advantage, I'd rather have it all there than trying to manage something else outside of the program. And I mean, again, I've been really happy. I'm sure there's people that have some issue or something with it, but so far so good for me, and I've used them for quite a long time. So, so this, and we can go back actually to the estimate. There's a screen. There's not a screen, I should say, where anywhere you go in QuickBooks, you're going to see this little backwards arrow, backwards time. So if you want to go back to something, you can. And it's in everything. I mean, if you're entering in bills or putting in a deposit, invoice, estimate, you're always going to see this little back time arrow. And that's to recall recent transactions. So this is a real quick, helpful, handy way to find those transactions, those recent ones. And if you want to view more, you can simply view more. And now it gets you into much more information, and you can kind of slice and dice the type of information that you're looking for. And you can simply go to that transaction, make any changes. True accountants don't like QuickBooks because you can change originals, they call it source data, and change information. And quite frankly, that's why business owners like QuickBooks, because they could make changes without having to put in an alternate adjustment to make that change. They could go right to the initial invoice or the original estimate and make those changes and not have to do some workaround. So that recall last transaction, like I said, it's everywhere. And we use this all the time. So it's just a helpful way. So if people didn't know that, again, a number of this information you might find redundant, but hey, that's okay. Everybody's on different levels here. Even if I put out a webinar for beginners, there would be seasoned people, and if I put out an advanced webinar, there would be people that are just beginning. So everybody kind of just goes into different spots that they think they need to be at. The other one in this one, let's see if I don't know if anybody's heard of class tracking. So class tracking, if anybody types in yes or thumbs up, it's really helpful. I'll give you an example for some of the people that don't understand the class tracking, what it is. Let's say you own a painting business, and you have a commercial division and you have a residential division. But right now on your P&L, everything's just lumped together. It just says painting income, and you don't know if I'm making more money or if I'm losing money or how much am I billing out, versus commercial versus residential. Well, with class tracking, you can find that. So in your version of QuickBooks, if it's not already turned on, if you go to accounts and settings, and I think it's advanced. Let's see, it might be a little different. Yeah, there it is. So categories under advanced, you see class tracking. So if I turn that on, and then I hop out, let's see, do I have to put anything at the bottom? I think if I hop out, and if I create an invoice, well, I'll use the recall one. No, I don't want to take a tour. I'll take this one. So now You see class. If I add new, class name, I'll just put res. I keep having to move everybody's screen. So there's res. So I'm just going to save that one. And it says hidden. But what that means is when you print out or send the invoice, it won't show up this. This is for your own purposes only. And let's go and recall one more. Let's do another one. So add new. All right. So I just class two transactions. And for this to really work effectively, you want to class everything. You want to class your invoices, your expenses, your payroll, to get a real accurate picture. But I'm just kind of showing you from a high level. And now, if you go to reports and you go to standard, you see now this shows up profit and loss by class. Oh, that other one, maybe I didn't save it. But you see right here, the residential is showing up. So the commercial, had I saved that, it would have shown up here. So all the not specified ones, meaning simply all of these transactions are not classed. So it helps also when you run this report. If you see not specified, then you can just simply click on them and start to class them. So that by classing transactions, it allows you two things. It allows you to see how much you've been billing out by that department or division. Some people had used it from East Coast and West Coast and South and North, kind of a territory, how their sales have been done geographically. You can do it kind of by product line, but this, maybe for that painter example, maybe he didn't realize where he was making money or losing money. And maybe he thought, oh, the residential money I'm not doing as well, and it's more time consuming, and I should really stick my marketing dollars onto the commercial side. This report can help you do that. So it's really, really insightful when it's used consistently. If you don't use it, you can't use it haphazardly because you're going to get half half the results, and it'll get more confusing. So if you can use it on a regular basis and try to always, say, get the non-specified identified. And people say, oh, should I go back last year to track my classes? That can get pretty tedious, but we're in April right now. So maybe you could say, hey, I could go back to January and set up classes and go forward with that before the year is too far into it. And that's definitely an idea or a consideration. Or some people say, as of April 1, I'm going to start it from here on. And whatever you do, just, start it and stick to it. And it's not that hard to maintain once you get it going. The tricky part with classing, the income is easy, the expense is easy, but the payroll can be challenging, because if you're an employee, like the painting example, a lot of times that painter will, they might be on a commercial site in the morning and a residential site in the afternoon. So you have to know that and break that down accordingly. Sometimes people take just percentages and say, okay, my employee Al, he's 70% commercial and he's about 30% paint, residential, and we'll kind of stick with those figures. But then that you have to put those in accordingly. So it takes a little bit of nuances to do that. But if you at least start with the income and see how much income you're generating, then you can start to add the expenses later if it takes a little while to kind of all get it going. So this one it's kind of changed a little bit, and Seth can concur with this, is undeposited funds. Years ago, undeposited funds was a major pain point with clients, and it still can be, because they don't understand how QuickBooks kind of set up this flow of information, they get kind of tripped up. I'll give you an example. And also, let me tell you, there's some wonderful videos on YouTube with undeposited funds. So if it is an issue and you want to do a deeper dive into undeposited funds, there's some great notices or great videos about that. So let's say with mobile, and this is why it's not as prevalent or we don't see it as much. We do see it, but not as much as we did before. With mobile banking, this has kind of changed this problem that a lot of clients were having that we were seeing. So let's say you get a check in the mail every day for 5 days, and you get a check every day for $1,000. So you had 5 different customers pay you Monday through Friday, and then Friday is your bank day. So then you go to the bank and you deposit $5,000. Well, in QuickBooks, you want to, if that is the case, okay, so in QuickBooks, you want to put in that deposit into undeposited funds because it hasn't hit your bank yet, but you want to take it out of accounts receivable because the customer did pay it. So undeposited funds is think of it as a holding account. It's waiting for you to drop it into the bank. And undeposited funds, so each day you put in that $1,000, and by Friday, you go to the bank and you put in $5,000. So the transaction in QuickBooks is, hey, each day undeposited funds is growing by $1,000. Friday, I'm going to take it out of undeposited funds and put it into your bank. Sounds easy enough, but that's where people get tripped up. So people say, oh, they didn't take it out of undeposited funds and they just record a bank deposit for $5,000. So the undeposited fund sits there growing and growing and growing and growing. And with mobile banking, now people aren't, that was the old way of kind of banking. And now with mobile banking, you're kind of that's why we're not seeing the undeposited funds issue as much, but people can get very tripped up on that. It's the one that we used to see routinely where, I'd see balances of $1 million in undeposited funds, and they're like, well, what's going on with this account? Well, because they were just making the deposit directly. And what happens is in your bank, it also screws up your reconciliation, your bank reconciliation, because if you put in individual deposits, even though you didn't go to the bank, if you just recorded every $1,000 each day and you said, oh, I'll just go to the bank on Friday. Well, in QuickBooks, the register shows $1,000 each day going in, but you truly only put in the deposit of $5,000. So when you reconcile your account, QuickBooks may not initially understand that those $5,000 deposits in your check register is that $5,000 deposit that you made on Friday. It's not going to reconcile the two. So you want in your QuickBooks bank, you want that 5,000 to show up correctly. So the bank feed recognizes that and it helps with the reconciliation. Again, deeper dive in the video there's a lot, like I said, a lot of good video on that issue. So, all right, so let's go. Now this has gotten better. This little magnifying glass, it's a search button. And this has gotten better in the last year, I would say. It seems to be working better. So if I want to put in $55, it's going to search everywhere that they see $55. And lo and behold, there's books by Bessie. That's catchy. Books by Bessie, Seth. And now you can pull up that transaction and make any changes or take a look at it and more. But we use this all the time, this advanced search thing. And it's not really the advanced search right there. It's a search button, right? But if you want to go more, here's the advanced search. Now, the advanced search gives you, again, all kinds of ways to slice and dice it and kind of narrow down that search if you're looking for something specifically. And this has gotten a little, I think, cleaner, or I guess easier to use, but you can look for something very easily with this advanced search. So that shows up again right here if you want to go into a deeper dive on stuff. And So let's talk. Let me switch. Let me talk about. Here's my favorite. So I'm going to go back to the slides now. Covered a few of them, and these are in no particular order. So don't think that number 12 is the least important one. That the order of these 12 are in no particular order. We cover that profit loss by month. And again, this is something I highly, highly recommend for owners to track. You may not like the numbers, but you need to see them. And you want to see them so you can make proactive decisions. You don't want to be in the reactive. We're like, oh, I should have done this, 3 months ago, 6 months ago. You gotta run your business like a business and take a look at, and especially you start out with the P&L. There's other important reports, but this is kind of the mother of all reports besides the balance sheet to at least start with. This is the one that's super cool. I love what QuickBooks did to this page, and the link that you guys will have is right here. So I'm going to go to this link. It's pretty cool. So this is it. So what QuickBooks did, pretty remarkable, is all of the apps that work with QuickBooks Online, they all have it in this app marketplace. So they all have them. It's not to say that it's every single app, but QuickBooks does some kind of venting, like they kind of test these ones before they get listed here. So at least there's some kind of process for them to get approval or authorized to be on this site, which is a good thing. And if you're looking for any third-party app, and quite frankly, most of our clients use at least one or a couple third-party apps, because QuickBooks can do a lot, but they can't do everything to everyone. So these third-party apps create things. Oh, there's one that we use, Reach Reporting. And so let's just take a look at Reach. So this format, this is what I really like. This format that you see, the overview, the pricing, reviews, the similar FAQ, any time of app that you take a look at in this link, they all have the same kind of format. So you can click on pricing, it'll give you pricing, overview. So all of the apps have the same screen. So it's not something new. You look at the ratings. So this, and you can find any app. There's hundreds and hundreds of apps on this site, and you can do it by category, by industry, all kinds of different ways to kind of narrow it down. This is a company we use. It's really good. And I mean, their ratings, wow, they're killing it. That's good. Love to see that. And so we recommend just a little tip, extra tip. When you're looking at third-party apps, how I look at them is I look at the ratings. I read what they said, good, bad. I read them. I want to know how long they've been in business. Sometimes these app companies are, a flash, this year and then next year they're gone. So I want an app company that's been around for at least several years. And I'm really curious on their customer service because the salespeople, they're always getting back to you really quickly. They're always the best. And on the front end, that always looks impressive. Like, wow, they're really responsive. Well, they're trying to sell you something. So they're on that. But now that you bought the product, how is the customer service on the other end when you have problems or you need help? Are they overseas? Are they here? Is that going to be an issue? That's what I'm really kind of curious about. And what's nice is a lot of times, you get free trials. A lot of the apps will give you a free trial for 30 days. So you can kind of test it out. And if you're looking for an app company and you have all of these apps that you're looking at that kind of do what you want them to do, my suggestion is narrow it down to two and take two for a test drive and see how the functionality is going to be. Is it going to work for what you're trying to do? You'll find out probably pretty quickly. And then you can even contact customer service during that free trial to see how responsive they are to you. But this site has been really, really helpful. This is one of the coolest things I think QuickBooks has done. Shopify, I mean, there's everything. So you can see all the different ones, invoicing, all the different apps. We know QuickBooks isn't great on their invoicing in terms of they don't allow a lot of customization. In fact, recently they've kind of narrowed down that customization. Um, they don't, they almost want to kind of keep it very, very boxed in and self-contained where, and so there are third-party companies that will, you can, customize and expand on their invoicing template and still work with QuickBooks. So there's a lot of great apps that are out there. And the track time one, I'm sure they'll have their own. Let's see. What do they have? Is this theirs? It's got to be theirs. Yeah, because QuickBooks bought a company years ago and then they rebranded it, so it's QuickBooks Time. But there are other time tracking apps that are out there that they'll show up in here. Um, and time tracking for a number of our clients is kind of a hot thing, and I get it. It takes some time to set up and be able to. You want to be able to keep working with it consistently. If you set it up and you don't use it all that much, well, then your results are not going to be great. And the time tracking is really job costing. It's really tracking what your employee or what job your employee is working on. So when you're looking at job costing reporting, saying, hey, am I making money or losing money on a job? Can be kind of important. That tracking the employee's time is critical in that. And QuickBooks Time is good. There's other ones, Gusto, there's other time tracking programs out there. You just have to see what's the easiest way and the best way to not only have your employees put in that time, but then for you to maintain it. So those are kind of questions you have to ask yourself. We have some clients that use QuickBooks Time because they use QuickBooks Payroll, and it's all self-contained. Makes sense. And then we have people that use Gusto that use their Gusto platform because they use Gusto Payroll, and then that payroll then gets brought into QuickBooks. A little clunkier or not as smooth, but stuff can work once you kind of realize the flow of information. The other thing, and now that I got out of the sample company, is the duplicate screen. So let me see if I can get. Okay, so you'll have to take my word. The duplicate screen, when you're in your QuickBooks file and you're working, and you know how the online is, you get into a report, and then once you get out of the report, it doesn't save it or it doesn't, you can't leave it open. It's kind of like a one-off thing. You can only do open one report at a time. Well, in your tab, in your top tab file, in your browser, your tab, if you go to the tab that shows your QuickBooks file and you right click, there's a duplicate. You can duplicate your QuickBooks file. Now, we recommend only maybe 3 or 4 duplications because it can get fragmented. But basically, you could have your QuickBooks, it's all still your same QuickBooks file, but now you can go into other areas. So let's say you have your P&L here on your one file. The next file, you have your AR open, and then the next one you have your AP. So you can go back and forth, and then you might have to press refresh every once in a while to make sure that they're all working together. But it's a way to work within your one QuickBooks file, but be able to go into multiple areas. It's pretty slick, that duplicate. But we don't recommend having 10 duplicates because that 10th one that you opened up is not going to update that first one that you have. It can get fragmented. So we recommend at best maybe 3 to 4. But it can be really helpful. Here's another one. If you're in your estimate and you want to look at your AR, you can do that. You can have your estimate open here and your AR open here, or your invoice, and kind of see stuff. So that one's a pretty cool little trick. QuickBooks won't tell you about that one, but we use it quite a bit in our just day-to-day stuff. We use it a lot. So let me go back to the screen. So I'm gonna take on some questions in a minute. Estimates, previous, yeah. Duplicate, yeah. Attachments. Attachments in QuickBooks are something some of our clients use it and some of it don't. But where you see it, anywhere you're at, if you're in the estimate, there's an area at the bottom where you can add an attachment. Maybe you need to add some additional information. Maybe you have to have something that you need to keep that is all in one-stop shop, that you keep all of your additional stuff. Maybe the deposit has some a deposit information that you wanted to send. So the attachments can be very helpful because you don't have to have it in other files and then try to hunt and peck for it. I use it in my day-to-day stuff for not everything, but for a number of things I do use it. Class tracking we talked about. Time, yeah. Undeposited, advance. Okay, last one. Wow. In the know webinars, this link provides, and I highly recommend everybody that is using QuickBooks Online to sign up for this. It's typically, and it's sponsored by QuickBooks. It's free. It gets you an early notice about upcoming features. And again, they're not going to tell you something that's a year down the road because their IT department will then be on the hook if something doesn't come out on time. So they're only going to tell you stuff they know for sure that's coming out in the next couple months. But it gets you information and knowledge, and you can stay informed on stuff. And it's usually about an hour once a month. Sometimes they'll take off time, like in April, maybe for tax time or for the holidays. It originally used to be for accountants, but they really kind of opened it up for anybody that uses QuickBooks. And we try to attend. One of my employees will try to attend it each month because there are stuff that's coming out that we'd like to know, and it's helpful for us. So that is it. Now, if you guys, if I run out of time, because I do have to hop on another webinar at 11, if you guys have some additional questions or we run out of time, just reach out to me. You can email me, you can call. That's my cell number. You can call me, but probably email might be best in terms of getting back to you. And I'm happy to help answer any questions that you guys have and see if I can alleviate any concerns or issues and kind of be a resource there for you. So without further ado, Seth, our chat expert, he's like the chat GPT of this webinar. Is that good? Is that good, Seth?
Yeah, I guess so.
What questions could I help answer? Hopefully.
Some ones that would probably be helpful. One would just be QuickBooks Desktop versus QuickBooks Online. Which would you recommend and why?
Well, I think kind of even for our own company's purposes, years ago, we used to support both. And a couple of years ago, we stopped supporting desktop because QuickBooks is pushing everybody to the online edition. Forget if you like desktop better than online. I get it. I totally get it. But QuickBooks is wanting everybody to be on the cloud. So they are raising the prices on the desktop quite aggressively. And this actually last year was the last year that they are putting out a full release. In the past, desktop would always come out with a new every year, 26, 27, 28, 29, and have all kinds of new updates and new bells and whistles. Well, QuickBooks has said, hey, last year for 25, we're going to keep that updated with any fixes or releases, but we're not coming out with full versions anymore. And I know they jacked up the price quite a bit of the desktop. So online is where it's at. It's not even where it's heading. It's here. So the nice thing is that you can migrate your desktop in most instances, not all. You can migrate your desktop information to the online. There are considerations and things to look out for. One in particular is the inventory, but online is where you should go. Now there are some, if there are specific things like when I was talking about Enterprise is a beefed up version of QuickBooks. Enterprise, if you have 20 users, you have high inventory and multiple class locations or warehouses. QuickBooks Online is probably not going to be that one. And the enterprise would be a good source for that. But if you're using desktop, eventually you're going to get pushed out, I think. I mean, again, it's already happening.
Yeah. And then question that can probably span a few that I'm kind of seeing here is uh, say if someone's like a smaller non-for-profit or just like a solo consultant, um, kind of like is QuickBooks Online, I guess, like the best option for those size uh, like entities, or like are there really alternatives to QuickBooks kind of domestically, or as far as
Well,
tracking finances and whatnot?
I mean, there are other accounting softwares out there, but none of them have the market share that QuickBooks has. I can tell you one in particular, Zero. I always thought, why would they name an accounting software Zero? I don't know, but they were out of Australia and they came over here with a lot of venture capitalist money wanting to compete with QuickBooks. And I know there's people out there that use Zero, but I rarely ever run across them. They just got smashed. And it's a good program. It's a good program. But there are different versions of QuickBooks that you can sign up for. And if you're a sole proprietor, maybe look at the Simple Start QuickBooks Online version. It's the cheapest. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but maybe you don't need that. Um, if you're a non-for-profit and you haven't used QuickBooks, there's a resource called TechSoup.org. They have some crazy deal with QuickBooks that I, as a pro advisor, can't even touch. And so if you haven't used QuickBooks before, 'cause I think if in an existing company is a little tougher, but TechSoup.org, if you're a non-for-profit and you're just starting out, go and research them. Their pricing, they have the yearly QuickBooks subscription pricing that is a fraction of the cost that I can get it for. So, or even yourself individually. TechSoup it's designed for non-for-profits with QuickBooks, and the software once you change in QuickBooks, once you change the tax type in your company setup to non-for-profit, it changes the reports in QuickBooks. So instead of profit and loss and balance sheet, now they have statement of financial position or statement of financial activity. And it doesn't cost you any more. But the TechSoup.org is a really good resource. It can save you a lot of money just starting out. Highly recommend it.
Then just take a quick look. And then I think that is most of the questions. Some of the other questions are a little more involved, which I'd probably say, um, like send Brad an email. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer. They just take a little longer than we have time to answer
Okay.
here.
Yeah, feel free to email me. And again, you guys are, today or tomorrow, you're going to get a copy of these slides. So, and I think even the video of this, so you can see my face even more if you really, choose to.
Let's see.
This is a good turnout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the turnout. So that's been good. All good?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as
Yeah,
things.
again, just reach out to me if I can, go on to a better discussion with you. I'm happy to help you. Okay. So thank you so much for attending and have a great rest of the week.
Hello, and for those of you in attendance, just wanted to take a moment. Any of you that are in the Orange County, Southern California area, we're putting on the next in our Women in Breakfast events on April 21st. And you can go to our website, www.score.org/Orange County, and look at our local workshops, and you'll see that event in there. It's being held in person from 8:30 to 10:30 at the Laguna Niguel City Hall. And the focus is AI in business. And we're going to have two exciting speakers talk about that topic for us. And I think that, it's something that you're really going to enjoy. Let me show you quickly. And hopefully you can see this on your screens. The Q code, if you scan that Q code, will take you right to the description of the program and a register key that you can use to register for the program online. But it's an in-person program, very exciting. We hope you'll take advantage of it. So thank you very much for attending today's session, and we hope to see you at another SCORE workshop very soon.